I think so. Okay, as part of this, as you could tell this morning, we have tried to involve people who are living what we're talking about here. So, we just finished a couple hours on autism. Good, bad, indifferent? Good. Okay.
Very good.
Now we're going to have a roundtable with families and children who are on the spectrum at some point. And we're going to talk about what's going on. We've got somebody else to be joining us, but she's running a little late for a kid juggling problem. So anyway, with that, please, let's see, there's Jennifer and Corinne Smith, and Chris Ray, and Jenny and Simon Whitty. Come on up. You can either a stool or a seat or whatever, a chair, whatever you want. Or you can stand. This is all about choices. Remember, we have to offer choices. You can stand, you can sit, you can use... No, I've got a stool, I've got a chair over here.
Well, I'm up here, sure.
I have a chair right here. Oh, there's a chair there. I have known these folks for a long time, and I'm just going to let them each tell their own story and their involvement with Santa, and then it's good time for you all to ask questions that we've done before.
Good afternoon, Santas. This is so exciting. I've been like bragging to everybody all day. We just spent the afternoon with a bunch of Santa Clauses. What could be better? I'm Chris Wright. And I have she's going to be 13 years old on Sunday, daughter. Her name is Maddie Grace. And she was diagnosed with severe autism when she was 2 years old. So we've been living this for a little while. We just found out she also has a couple of rare genetic diseases that explain a lot of what's going on with her, including her autism. But she also has some pretty severe muscle weaknesses that make it difficult for her to be mobile and move around. She gets exhausted pretty easily, so Santa in the mall experience does not sound super fun to me. Just getting her to the mall from the parking lot is probably an accomplishment in itself, and she's done, so never really even thought about attempting that. But Maddie's first experience with Santa Claus was when she was 2, like right after she was first diagnosed, and she has been seeing Santa ever since. We've never missed a year, and she has had various experiences with Santa Claus. Early on, I don't think she was all that interested in him, but it was really just an inviting environment. It was quiet. Private. We had, scheduled appointments, so we didn't have to wait, which was amazing. There were a lot of sensory supports available for her because she could get overwhelmed pretty easily. There were just things to play with. There was a quiet place to go if it was too much for her while she was waiting. There were preferred toys, gift bags, just, kind of whatever she was comfortable doing was available there for her, which was really important for us as a family. And just the lack of me having to stress about it, because, like I said, it's just there were so many things that could have gone wrong with that experience, but I knew I was walking into a situation where Santa understood, and he was not going to rush us. He was not going to try to do something that might upset her. He was just going to be with her. and be where she was and meet her where she was. So that was really important to us. Like the first time that we went, I don't know if our pictures are back up there or not, but first time that we went, she didn't want to sit on his lap. She was more interested in his bells. Yeah, that's Maddie through the years. He knew that, and so he got her down and really close with the bells, and she was hooked from that point. So that was really great. Other times that we went into an environment and she walked up to him. He thought that she was coming up to sit on his lap, so he opened his arms and she walked right past him. And she grabbed the game on the shelf behind him and then walked back to the center of the room, sat down and started to play. So, another time she tried to force feed him M&Ms. And he just kind of rolled with it. It was like, whatever Maddie wanted, whatever she was comfortable with, that's what he was going to give to us. And so just having like that 15-minute time period was great, because you're not letting and jump on his lap, tell Santa what you want, and leave. It's just at her pace, reducing her anxiety and ours. And it was just, it's been super special. And she's, again, now 13. She's big. They just started offering couches in the setting, which is kind of nice, because then it's more comfortable for her. It's more comfortable for Santa. You don't have a 100-pound kid sitting on your lap. And she likes to get up and snuggle up to him and just put her head on his shoulder. And I just really love that there's not an age limit to that now either. Because some of us are always kids, but a lot of our kids have developmental disabilities, and so mentally they're a lot younger than what they are chronologically. And I think she will always love Santa. She lights up when she sees him. I light up when I see him. So it's just really important what you guys do, and I don't think we would have had that opportunity if we wouldn't have known about it through our local Autism Society chapter. That partnership has been super tight, and they're the ones that really facilitated that for us. So those partnerships in your community are really important to get out there and find where the need is and connect and make sure that there's awareness that you're out there and that you want to love on these families, because otherwise I don't think we ever would have known or had the relationship experience that we've had the past 13 years. So thank you all for what you're doing, and it's a whole lot for our family.
Hi, I'm Corinne, and I'm 26 years old, and I have autism, and I'm an artist, and I create animal friends drawings and calendars and bookmarks and cards. I've been in drawing ever since I was a kid. That way drawing can help me communicate me to.
Very good. Awesome.
Okay, hi. Due to what Chris just said, I think she just covered all of our bases there. I'm Jennifer Smith. I'm Corinne's mom. And Corinne was never ever really shy to Santa's. One, because I always worked, if anybody is from around here that remembers the Great Mall, when it was the Great Mall, I worked, and I helped facilitate getting Santas every year and stuff. So when Corinne and Cameron, my son, who also has autism, when they were little, they were always getting private sessions because they would come up with me and I'd get them alone. But Corinne is very social, as you can see. My son, on the other hand, doesn't want to have anything to do with going around except for kind of what Chris was saying about Maddie, which is kind of like look and walk around and look at him, and that was about it. But he knows stories of Santa. He knows Santa is important. Santa loves children. Santa loves everyone. And one of the stories I want to share is that one year during the holiday season, this is how important your role is, not just for children, but for adults of any age with disabilities. Because there was a group of adults coming from a home that were coming in to visit the mall, but their first stop was Santa. And those adults, aged anywhere from 30 to 60 with disabilities, were so excited to see Santa. That's all that they could focus on was Santa. So when you see an adult come up to you, please welcome them with open arms, because that is so important, not only to them, but to maybe the caregiver or to the parent that is with them, because you have this, I think, folklore about you that you are always loving, always kind. And I have seen, and it's hard to say this, but I have seen where some Santas are very standoffish because you're an adult, you shouldn't be coming up, but they don't know that that person may have a disability. Or we have seen other people, you shouldn't be up there, you're an adult. Well, shut it, because every Santa is welcome to everyone. So I think that is also very important. I think you all are aware of that, because that's what this organization is about. You don't discriminate because of age. So I think that is clearly important. But one of the things Corinne did, and Chris was a part of the Autism Society, Jenny's been a part of the Autism Society, our local chapter here, that created those environments for our families to have this open environment where they can go into a private area and that individual can just look at Santa, and then kind of over the years get more and more. I mean, there's so many stories I could share about Santa over there. I don't know what I'm supposed to call you, Santa. But also, how I met him was from T-Rex. I was the sales manager at T-Rex, and we started since 2007, is since I've known you. So, yeah, he even got in a fish tank. Not really, but pretend. So but one of the things that's so important too is Corinne is, I know in the earlier session they were talking about artwork and things like that. Corinne has created her own kind of social stories in her animal friends. So in this one that you saw on her animal friends are comforting another friend to seek out Santa and not be so nervous. So that's how she uses her communication.
And this would probably be as good a time as any. Corinne and I have been in conversation and negotiation. We are going to collaborate, and Corinne is going to illustrate a book that is, we're using her characters, about one of her friends who doesn't want to see Santa because they're nervous. And how all of the other characters can convince their friend that Santa's all right. And we're going to work on this, and we've got some people that are backing this up. We're going to work on, and we're going to get Corinne published, and that's going to be something that you can use as a handout to families and when you're doing autism events. So, anyway, I'm excited about this.
And then before I pass it on, but there is also, and I don't know if you've shared it on your website or not, but there's a film we created a couple of years ago called Just Like You, Autism. And it is something that you can also view that can help you understand individuals with different forms of autism, those that are nonverbal, kind of like what we're trying to do here today. Those are very verbal. kind of for you to see them in different interactions and how they see things. So it's individuals with autism sharing with you how they see the world. And that's kind of, we all look at the world in different glasses sometimes, and this is a really good observation of how those with autism see the world.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and this is my son Simon, age 15 and a freshman in high school now. And we've been visiting Santa actually since he was a little baby. He did go when he was born in August, so when he was just several months old. And then Simon was diagnosed with autism when he was 2, and nonverbal until about 3.5, 4. So when he was 2, and we had started therapy at the autism school, I had completely dismissed the idea of seeing Santa Claus as a family. We had a 6-year-old son, another baby, his brother Max, and Simon, and we just thought, we'll skip Santa this year. There's no way they can tolerate the mall. We had the mall up north, the Metro North Mall, and my other kids, I have a daughter too, had seen Santa there, and we just thought, there's no way Simon and the baby can tolerate the mall. Well, the school had a Christmas party, and we saw Santa there. He was there, and we thought, well, if we could see Santa, or just like wave at him maybe, because this guy was really apprehensive of other people. I had my camera. My dream was to get a picture, but I didn't think it would happen. I thought maybe we could get a picture of them in the same room, but probably not on the lap or anything. Well, he came in, that's Simon and Santa. He came in with his little bells. We gave him some bells, and he thought, okay, I'll go in the room since I get bells. And stood and looked at Santa, and then his dad, my husband Tom, picked him up and sat near Santa and put him on his knee. And Santa brought out his big bells. And Simon looked at those bells and thought, wow. And then Santa put the bells out to where Simon could get them. And Simon just looked at him like, me? Those are for me? And Simon grabbed those bells and gave Santa the little bells. I'll take these big bells. And then they had a shaking contest back and forth where they shook bells, and I got lots of pictures of that, and I thought, this is great. And then Santa did this to Dad on his lap, and I started crying then too. It's so bad. He sat on his lap, and he put his head back on Santa and gave him a hug. That was his way of hugging him, with his head. Remember, I used to do, this is a hug. And we got a picture, and I just cried and cried. And I remember Santa asked me later, we'd been seeing him for a few years, why, he remembers me crying. And he asked me why I was crying, and I said, because I was so happy. I was so happy that he could do something that every kid does. And we never thought we would do, and I thought, okay, it's going to be okay. We had just gotten the diagnosis in September, and I didn't think anything would ever be okay again. It gave us hope. I think Santa, for a lot of families, is hope. It's family, it's tradition, and it's something that everybody wants. I facilitated Santa with the Autism Society for several years after that because it was just such a wonderful thing I wanted every family to experience. And I got a call from an 85-year-old mom who was terrified to even ask if she could bring her 40, 50-year-old daughter with Down syndrome. And I said, bring her on. We'd be happy to have her. It's for all ages. It's not just for little kids. my little guy that's not here right now, I think he's headed over here because he heard there was a room full of Santas. So Dad's bringing him. Max, he's 13 and also has autism. He just loves Santa Claus, and nobody can tell him any different. So I agree with Jennifer. Age just doesn't matter when it comes to special needs kids, special adults. It's not just kids, it's special people. And Santa, for us, the biggest positive was that Santa took his time. I think the one thing I wanted to say is it's not important to get that perfect pose. Most of us are just happy to be in the room with Santa and just spend some time. It really helps to have that separate space where it's not all busy and scary and there's not all that other stuff to compete with. And it was just a quiet, separate room that we went into as a family at the Autism Center. And then in the future, we had a community center where we met, and Santa would be in a separate room, and we did one family at a time. And sometimes the kids just stood in the doorway, and Santa waved. And the next year, they would come in, and they would wave, and then the next year, they would run into Santa's lap. I saw that time after time, where kids made such progress socially and emotionally. It was great to see them every year growing up and making progress, and you could tell with Santa. So for us, it's made, such a huge difference. It seems so trivial when you think of, until you're there and you experience it. And for us, it was just everything. For us, it was that hope that we could function as a family, that we could have autism and still do wonderful things and still enjoy things that other families enjoy. So do you have anything to say about Santa Claus? What's your favorite thing about Santa?
A lot of things are good about him.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you remember being scared of Santa Claus?
No.
You only remember that you liked him?
Yeah, I only remember that.
Perfect segue. Mr. Parker. Okay, well, is there anything else you want to say?
He's a guy of few words. Well, thank you for your time. I'm going to pass the microphone to you.
I will take the microphone for a minute. Our last speaker to arrive up here on the far end is Sarah Starford, and this is her son Parker. This happens to be my daughter and grandson. So, and Parker is obviously at a different place on the autism spectrum. He communicates using the iPad that he's got right here in his lap. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's his. Mom's got the words. You've got words, okay. I'm gonna hand this to her. You gonna sit there? Okay.
Yeah, he's gonna ignore you.
I think he's settled in.
Obviously, the Santa culture is something I grew up with, so my children not seeing Santa was not really an option. Parker even was originally supposed to be due around Christmas. I told my doctor that was not going to happen. It was not having a baby on Christmas, so sorry. Immersed in the culture of Santa. So since I knew it was something that was so important to my family, it was a matter of how are we going to make this work for us and kind of finding our normal to kind of make Santa happen, more so for my family. And so the way, having the connections that my father had, he contacted the big man himself. So that's my other son, Lucas. And that's Big Brother. And so we got the big man to come to our house. And Santa comes to our house every year in his busy schedule. And I think what really helped Santa be accessible for Parker was finding out as much information about Parker as Santa could ahead of time. And so how to connect with Parker. Parker doesn't speak, he has a few words that he will say orally. He also has something called apraxia. So it's something where he knows what he wants to say in his head, but he can't get it out. So that's where the communication device comes in. And so he's very aware. He knows everything that's being said about him. And to him, sometimes, just like any child, he chooses not to listen. But he's very aware of what is going on, even though he does not always give the appearance that he knows what is happening. And I think that is something that's very important to be aware of, is that just because a child or an adult may not verbally communicate, they are hearing everything we say. And so, yes, right? I think that's one of my big things. Also, with Parker, lots of people have the image of someone with autism not liking loud noises or not liking bright lights. Yes, you have the title. He wants YouTube, but they can't get the Wi-Fi, is what he really wants. Yes, Parker loves loud noises, loves bright lights. He loves the wind. They're coming in. He is more of a sensory seeker. So there's all sorts of different, however, when it comes to food, he is a sensory avoider. So certain smells of just food really he does not like. I also wanted to kind of mirror what everyone was saying about the adults. I'm also a special education teacher, and I teach high schoolers. And I had a high schooler in my class that was an advocate for all of you and would stand up as his peers would disagree with them. So again, age does not matter, even though he looked even older than an 18-year-old, but he was very passionate about Santa. So I think just again, kind of finding what works for the families and being open to find out, any little thing. And again, there's not probably going to be that picture perfect Kodak moment, but anything to have that memory to share is important.
So, now it's open for all of you. Oh, hello.
Simon's brother. You want to come sit up here? Do you have anything you want to say about
Hey Max, how are you? Good to see you too.
Think you ever see this many Santas in a room? Do you want to say anything in the microphone? No.
So now it's up to all of you to ask questions. This is your opportunity, so, Robert, go.
Okay, what is the future for the children that have severe autism? Now, are they going to have to lead a sheltered life the rest of their life, with family or wherever? Or will they be able to become functional enough to survive in society?
I know.
I'm like,
Go for it. You gonna answer that, or you have those? So, great question. And that is kind of an individual choice. That is an individual opportunity. So one of the things that all of us up here are advocates for for our loved ones and also for the community. And that is what we do too, to get out in the community and advocate not only for our loved ones, but for others, for choices and helping them be as independent as possible. There are individuals that are very severe, that are nonverbal, that need care 24/7. And we look at those opportunities for them to live in the best environment that they can. And why it's so important that actually the Autism Cares Act passed today federally, which is a really good thing. So that means there's more funding that can be available. So within your state and your community, sometimes that funding looks different. Right now in Kansas, there's a wait list of 7 to 8 years for funding to help someone get support. So when someone turns 18, they can have choices of going into day services or residential services. 5 years ago, that looked very different. Now there's opportunities at colleges, there's opportunities for employment. I know that, my son who has autism, he works at Walgreens 3 days a week. Corinne has created her own business, and she will try to sell you no matter what. So she's a salesperson. So, but each of us, I know, look at, he's looking at food. So, but I just lost my train of thought, sorry. But that question is that it can and it will be something that all of us are advocating for. There are individuals that do have sheltered lives that we try to get to know more and get them out and about. And sometimes you as Santa can go to their homes. I didn't know that's one thing.
The reason I asked, I know several families who've had children that they're adults and they need individual living, but I understand there's whole communities that are set up for them where they have supervision, but they can still lead normal lives. And they get the extra help if they need it. If not, they live normally, but they could function in a regular neighborhood.
Right, and that happens, and normal today is a lot different. I mean, there's not, so, but, yeah. So there are, because advocating, and I know this man right here, he advocates not just during Christmas time, he's advocating. He comes to several of my events that I have year-round to be there, not just with the bearded man, but to advocate for all individuals. So it is something that you can do, not just during December, but the other 11 months is also advocate. And that can be joining up with an autism or whatever group that touches your heart that you could pair up with and advocate. So.
I run into a number of them, docent employment manager,
Okay.
we get a lot of adult groups through that are in children's homes, and it's the most wonderful people I've ever met.
Yeah, and to look at them and their eyes widen up when they see all the things, it's like a whole, you learn from them on how to appreciate life.
Are the schools, I'm not from Kansas.
Sure.
So I just don't have
Kind of.
Are the schools your public schools, or are they private, or are they specialized?
Primarily in the area you're in, there are public schools. There are 5 major public schools in this area. But then, like in my district, I teach in the district that you're currently in, there are different programs throughout the district. based on student need and individual need, and what the IEP, the Individualized Education Plan team, which consists of the child, the parents or guardian, special education teacher, the classroom teacher, a principal, and then any other service providers. So like Parker receives speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and music therapy. Because art is the way to Corinne's heart, music is the way to his heart. And so that is just based on individual need. I actually teach at a very, what's called a restrictive setting. The students that I teach all have an IEP. It's a school just for students with significant emotional, mental health, and trauma needs. But it's in the public school. But then there's also private schools, like there's North Star, which I don't know much about, up the street.
Yeah, not really in that capacity.
Okay, see, I don't know, because I am, as a public education teacher, I am a public school advocate. And then an interesting situation with that, Parker was going to the preschool, and we live in the district I teach in, and he was at the preschool. I'm a special education teacher. I know probably way too much to be dangerous. And the team at the preschool felt that Parker needed to go to a different setting. But my husband and I, we went and looked at the different setting, but we knew that was not what Parker needed at that time. And so, I mean, it's really a very family and child need basis. What works for one child is not going to work for another child, and it's very, it's very individualized. And the parents that you meet that have a kid with an IEP, especially IEPs as extensive as probably are going to be some of the most passionate parents you meet.
Mr. Simon, what's your favorite thing in school?
My favorite thing in school is math.
And also to piggyback on the private, some specific autism programs can cost a family anywhere to $70,000 or more. Right? It's a family right there that did it, so, yeah.
Very good in math?
He's got a 160 math IQ, so.
That's one of his strengths, and I think we talk about that with any kids, is that you work on their strengths. What do they like? What's their passion? I read a story, a woman wrote a book about, it's called The Spark, and it talks about strengths in autism, and she taught lots of kids. And one of her students was nonverbal. She was 18 years old, and she loved to bake. And she loved to decorate because she was in the kitchen with this teacher, because she could see, she loves to draw, and she loves to do things. Well, she got a job at a grocery store decorating cakes, and she makes some of the best wedding cakes around. And she's completely nonverbal, but she's able to do that, and she can communicate in other ways. Some people can use sign language. Some people use iPads if they have problems, apraxia, talking. Simon had some apraxia mild when he was younger. We did occupational therapy to help him with that, and actually used a little toothbrush thing to work the muscles in his mouth. He didn't like that very much when he was 2. He used to bite us. So we've done lots of therapies. Both of our kids are in public schools now, but in preschool we did a lot of private therapy, and we went to a private autism school. We paid out of pocket for that. So we just got insurance to cover therapies in 2011 in Missouri. Autism therapy, speech, occupational, physical therapy, and behavior therapy was covered 100% for someone who had a stroke, but not for a 2-year-old with autism. And so we've lobbied in Missouri and Kansas. Kansas followed us a few years later. And we have, not everybody's covered, but they made a state mandate at least. We're still holding out for a federal mandate, so all states require coverage, but it's something we didn't know. Before we had kids with autism, we knew nothing about autism. So if you feel intimidated or scared, so would we. I mean, I knew nothing about it, didn't know what to do, was scared to death, and but I learned, and it's really not as hard as you think. It's just, for me, it seems like common sense now. And when we met Santa, I think that was the first time we met another person that wasn't scared, other than a teacher or a therapist. Just a regular person who just saw our kid as a kid and not someone to be scared of, or not someone who was super different. So I think, anyway, that's been great for us as well. But both Max and Simon would be considered, some people bristle at the high functioning label, but they are on the higher functioning end of the spectrum. Partially to therapy, but a lot of it is just genes, luck of the draw. They don't really have as much, they don't have the allergies some kids have. They don't have some of the genetic stuff going on that some kids have. So you never know how it's going to end. Our doctors told us they didn't have a crystal ball. We didn't know if they'd talk. We didn't know if they'd be potty trained, but you guys were, weren't you? By kindergarten. Yeah. He wanted to ride the bus. So you might run into things like that with kiddos that are 10 that are still in diapers. It's okay. A little bit. They're a little like Bert and Ernie. What she was saying was that kids are different on the spectrum. I have 3. My daughter is 25, and she has Asperger's. She's an architect, so she's a very visual person. She's also a math person, and she's doing very well. She graduated from K-State. And then these 2 were born, and they were severe and nonverbal, and my daughter was very mild. We didn't even know she had anything going on until she was a teenager. Max loved to be held and touched and cuddled. He would scream if you touched him. Max loved to knock things down, and he loved to build things. Max loved loud noises. Simon did not. Or am I getting that backwards? Whether you did not. I'm not getting that backwards. You loved yelling. That's right. You loved alarms. If an alarm went off, he was smiling and laughing, and this one was crying. So it was just, he would build a tower, he would knock it down. He would yell, he would cry. So it was just, he liked Dad, he liked Mom. So I was joking when they were babies, we had his and hers with autism. He got one and I got one. So this is Dad, by the way. This is my husband, Tom. And so they're 15 months apart. Max is 13. He'll be 14 December 16th, so he was almost my Christmas baby too. And he just turned 15 in August. So they're 1 year apart in school, 8th grade and freshman.
Oh yeah, by the way, I have the same birthday as Beethoven.
It's very proud of that.
Yeah, Ludwig.
Yeah, the dog. There's a movie called Beethoven. I don't know if he knows that movie, but
And also, it's the same. And then also it's the same day on the Boston Tea Party.
Max likes to talk, Simon's quiet.
I got a question. My son's autistic, graduate syndrome, mild and moderate. Back then, there wasn't much study on autism. Now it's coming about. More and more kids are showing up as autistic. Is there more support from the Autism Speak side for your local club.
You did that one. Why do I get that one? Well, I don't necessarily want to favor one group or another group. It just depends. But I think all of us here really look at focusing on the local supports. There is national organizations that others support. Because one thing, Autism Speaks did help with legislative issues where we weren't able to get those funding. They do create some toolkits on their website that are pretty good, and I kind of send things. But you really want to look at the funding stream. You want to look at whatever organization you're with that you're going to partner with. What are they doing with those funds? Where are they going with children's services, adult services? That was one thing when we were with Autism Society, that there wasn't a lot of adult services, and so we started to focus on the transition. And I mean, we were even holding sessions for voting. Individuals on the spectrum. How do you vote? How do you know how to vote? Who do you know who to vote for? Those things which are very important. When Corinne turned 18, she's a registered voter. When her brother turned 18, registered voter. I wanted to make sure they had the same choices as everyone else. Do you want to learn how to drive, Corinne? No. But she tells me how to drive.
Couple of things. First, please understand when a family has someone in it with autism, it affects the entire family. It changes everything, it changes relationships. I know that Parker's autism has an impact on Lucas. By nature, it has to. So please, when you're out doing what you do, and you meet a child that's on the spectrum, remember that if there are siblings involved, to bring them into the conversation. Just as an example, I always make it a point to thank the other children who are neurotypical for the help that they are with their brother or sister. That's an important thing to let them know that it's seen and it's appreciated when you help mom and dad and you help your brother. So keep those things in mind. The second thing is, in your community, there are lots of organizations that have a specialty, if you will, with autism. Check them out when you get back. I sent out requests, if you will, to 3 different organizations when I started getting involved with working with autism. 2 of them I got absolutely no response. It was like, Santa Claus doesn't mean anything to us, we're not interested. And the third, which was the Autism Society, the guy who was the president at the time was a grandfather in the situation, not a parent. And he said, I just don't get it, but I'll pass it on to the board. They had a board meeting the Monday after we had lunch together, and my phone rang at 10:30 on Monday night. And it was Bill calling. He said, we had a board meeting tonight, and I passed along that I had met with somebody who was willing to come and be Santa Claus for our kids. He said the response from the board was, what? You let him get away? So, who knew? So, there are places for you to fit into this, and this is a children that are not neurotypical, the population is growing. So this is really something where we need to be there. So.
And if you can't find an organization, maybe go to a school that's close to you and seek out and say, do you have holiday parties that, I might be able to kind of visit and set up something. So there's a lot of great tools to do.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that in Minnesota, I was on the board of a education foundation that school district that had 12 or 13 member school districts that took in for the education of the physically and mentally handicapped students of those school districts. Do they have anything like that here in Kansas?
So,
We're in Kansas, but Missouri.
Oh, Missouri? Yeah, or, yeah, both of them.
what was the question?
Does the school have like a commission or
Yes.
area for people with special needs?
It just depends on what school district. I know the state does have, I know Kansas does, Missouri does too, has a commission for education. And there is a disability program for each of them. So typically, I know in Kansas, they really try to recruit individuals with a disability to be on that committee. And that's the thing that they're really going for, is having committees. If you're serving a committee for disabilities, you might want to have someone with a disability on that committee. So,
But the other issue with public schools, there are some districts that will not allow Santa Claus to be there.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
I had a Santa question.
Okay.
I use a lot of props with kids with special needs and for adults with special needs. I use a lot of props. Some of them are sensory but I've never tried singing. And I'm just curious about singing because
And look who just won.
Yeah, look who just won America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Cody Lee, blind and has autism.
Yes.
I think a lot of our kids love music and really respond to it. I will say though, my daughter is one of those. She adores music, she's playing music all the time. However, when I sing, turn it off. So, maybe it's because of how well you sing. But
I lost on
Or
that.
get them to sing. Get them to sing.
They will sing, yeah, if you want it, like my daughter has an iPad like Parker does, and she has music on there, and like have them share their music with you. She likes it very structured, and like if you're off tune or something, that might set her off, but yeah.
Well, about the music, yes. And that's Parker. One of the biggest ways that he has learned everything academically has been through song. And we make up songs about everything. We have a potty song. We have a put your shoes on song. We have a put your pants on song. And like we just, our house is a musical.
Lighting song.
Oh, ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Lucas, like what John was saying, has been impacted in a very positive way with autism and is probably one of the biggest advocates of his brother that you will ever meet. And he wanted to talk.
Having a brother like this is like, it doesn't, well, first of all, it doesn't really matter if someone has a disability because we're all the same in a different way. But Parker, he's a great person. He's learning very fast. I'm already in 4th grade and he's already in 1st. I'm like, really? But I understand some people don't understand that people are different and people have autism sometimes, which is okay because not all people know that. And it doesn't matter. And yeah, someone might stare or someone might look at them. And if they're asking you, is he okay? You say yes, that's fine. You tell them what's wrong. But Parker, again, he's awesome. He's going really fast. And he's someone that all of us would. He's the best brother you all would.
that you know nothing about, it is very scary when you first get that diagnosis, because that is all I got. I don't know about you guys. I am very fortunate for families like this that have helped pave the way and make Parker's life easier. He's only 6 years old. We got a diagnosis the day before he turned 2. I've had my own insurance battles. Everything was covered for him because I knew what to read in the insurance because of families like this. So it is getting better and the acceptance is getting better. And I and Parker and our family would not be where we are without the advocacy that these families have done. And how old is Corinne older?
26.
20, so there's 20 years apart, which really, in the grand scheme of things, the first person ever diagnosed with autism is still alive today. So we know nothing. We are still learning. But in just a 20-year span, it's been way different, I think, because of these families.
Yeah, I do know that in Kansas City, a number of years ago, they closed the layout, which was for children with problems, and they dumped them at East High School, told them they're going to have their principal and all their teachers over there, and then they moved the teachers elsewhere and left them. And it was up to the principal there to manage to try to find people that were trained to deal with the problems that these children had. And it showed you that all school systems aren't really in the groove, so to speak.
Well, and I also think it really, both being a teacher and with my children, it honestly depends on that teacher. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the policy is, it doesn't matter what the district says or what the district has, it's what that classroom teacher does is really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've seen many teachers quit because of policies that come from administration. I also want to mention, sometimes the R word is still used today, just depending on age and also how some people use it. So if you could please be an advocate of not using the R word, we would appreciate that as well. So.
This is a good way to keep them quiet.
Anybody else?
Were you raised outside in the hallway with that little children? Remember the stick? You like that? I'll show you how it works if you want to. I'll show you how it works.
All right. Anybody else have a question?
You can also do this. Perfect business.
Maybe we should say Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for him.
Okay.
Shark, but there's a Santa version of it.
Oh, Santa Shark.
There's Santa.
Just
Parker's favorite song.
first, I want to thank everyone for coming and doing this. You don't know how much it means. Our goal is to be the best we can be for your children and other children going through the same thing yours are and have gone through. And without getting what you have in knowledge and information, you can't get there. So you don't know how much this is appreciated. So.
Well, we appreciate you
All
being
right.
here. Thank you very much to all the Santa Clauses. I know we all want to say thank you.
And Mrs. Clauses?
And Mrs. Clauses too, sorry. Mrs. Clauses too. I mean, I know just by looking at everybody's faces as we've been talking and looking at you, how much we appreciate each and every one of you for caring what we have to say. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, one more thing real quick before we stop talking autism. If I can make this work real quick.
Hi, Saints of America. My name is Sandy Patrick Egon. I'm one of the new board members of Saints of America. And I wanted to
I told you we had a video. Here is our video. It's been made over 10 years ago. So it's clearly dated in lots of ways. And we're going to redo this, but this is available to direct your children that you're going to visit. Hello. I'm talking to you today before you visit with Santa. I thought you might like to know what to expect when you visit Santa. Santa looks and dresses differently than most of the people you know. Let's talk about the things that are different about Santa. The first thing you might notice is Santa's beard. It is white and long and soft. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of it. I just wanted you to see that it's out there. YouTube, Santa America channel, all one word. Okay? So take a look at that, and if you have any advice, opinion, or resources to help us redo this, we'd love to do it. And now everybody has video access. You can make your own. Similar kind of thing that you use with the children that you visit that are on the spectrum. So anyway, with that, we're going to go ahead and break at 5 o'clock sharp. Everybody please be wearing this shirt and meet out here on the steps. We're going to have a group picture. Okay? So 5 o'clock.